It was a dark and stormy day in New York City, and we hoped that the AMC Lincoln Square would hold. That's right, there's more flooding warnings, and we're all very nervous that the AMC Lincoln Square might once again go down. No, save the movie theater. Hey, thank you, Danny. Thank you, Rufinos. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much. You guys changed some of your names? Why? Just when I started to learn who you are? Oh, my goodness. Let's see here. Rufino says, the memberships are in thanks for my 1-year badge. And it's your birthday, too. This channel is a gift for you. Oh, that's so sweet. That's so kind of you. Oh, YouTube changed it. Oh, yeah, you're all ats now. What? Oh, hey, Kareem. I don't know why they did that. That's weird, that YouTube. Okay, all right. So we have a ton of stuff, a ton of great stuff to talk about today. Danny, I know who you are. Wow, X-Men super fan. You're always so generous. By the way, any gift of memberships is appreciated because it's not just for me, but somebody else gets to benefit from it as well. But you guys are all so sweet. Look at Aubrey. Hey, Aubrey. So we have a lot of wonderful, wonderful things to discuss today. We have 3 great stories to go over, and I will have time today to do the Ask Me Anything at the end of the stream because that's some of our favorite part. Alrighty then. And of course, keep your questions and comments to the story at hand, and I'll be paying the most attention to your questions and comments at the end of each section. Hey, Alex, that's so generous of you. I love this community too, Flavs. You guys are just so wonderful. Really, just so kind. Robert, thank you so much. Let's get down to business and defeat the Huns. I can't sing, but that doesn't mean I can't try. Okay, here we go. That's right, Atomsphere. Great start to the stream. I hope you're okay in Hawaii. It ended up really not being much of anything, but you never know. So you gotta treat everything like it's gonna be a major incident. All right. That's right, Elliot. Elliot knows what I'm doing there with the song, with the singing. Okay, I got a lot of stuff uploaded for today. Story number 1. Boop. Okay, oh, look at Robert Downey Jr. He's wearing green as Doomsday for a reason. He's Scrooge McDuck. I wish I'd uploaded that image. Oh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay, so we got a lot to discuss about Robert Downey Jr. So there was an article that came out in Variety the other day, and I was like, not too much here. It confirmed that they're doing young X-Men. Hey, John, or J-Ro. They're doing younger X-Men, which I thought the Hello Fellow Kids meme about Wolverine that was making the rounds was pretty funny. And also they said that they're starting to get ready to cast Black Panther 3. I mean, once Denzel said, I'm going to be in Black Panther 3, they were like, we got to do it. We got to make it, right? Because everybody got so excited. And then also, they said that another Deadpool and Blade still were not priorities. And we're like, tell us something we don't know. You know, by the way, I saw some people saying, does this mean it's the end of Blade? They ain't never gonna say that they're not gonna make Blade. It'll be like Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. Maybe we're gonna make it someday. We don't know. It's coming, maybe. I think it's really, you know, I'm glad that Mahershala Ali is moving on to other things in his life. All right, so this article, they talked about a couple of things, and I think we really liked some of the reveals here. And to me, because you know I love business, to me the most interesting thing in the article that I thought would be fun to discuss today was how much RDJ is getting paid. Oh my gosh. So it says Avengers Doomsday will feature at least one mega payday in Robert Downey Jr., who is returning to the fold as villain Dr. Doom. Sources say Downey Jr. has earned between $500 to $600 million over the course of 7 Marvel movies and 3 cameos. So that's not even $100 million a movie. And won't be working at a discount on Doomsday. I love that quote. We'll come back to it. I see the Hemsworth Pascal stuff, but we're going to talk about it at the bottom, as you can see. So, $500 to $600 500 to 600 million off of his entire run as Tony Stark. Well, before we talk about whether or not it's worth it, let's talk about how that comes to be. That is a combination of salaries and bonuses. So every major actor gets paid a certain amount of money up front, right? That they have to share with their agent and their lawyer, and they have to pay their publicist and all these different people who work for them, their assistants and all that stuff. So, each mega celebrity is like a little business, really. And so that money, and they also, don't forget, taxes. So, but RDJ is still taking home at least half of that, right? So he's taking home probably at least 40 to 50% of that. So he's making a couple $100 million at the very least. So not only is there the upfront salary, Danny says they also hire his staff only for when he's working on the films, and he doesn't work on the films year round. So Robert Downey Jr. has to have an assistant. He's very successful. I'm sure he has a cook, a chef, his own personal security detail when he's not in a Marvel movie. He has young children, so he has to pay for their care. Very expensive. One of my favorite hilarious quotes from Devious Maids was Susan Lucci saying, wealthy people employ so many people and have the most overhead. So I always thought that was a very funny quote. It certainly does not make them sympathetic, but it's always something to take into account. But then also, of course, he gets bonuses. He gets tons of bonuses. Those are usually built in, particularly once a star starts to do very well. That's right, they are champagne problems, SMR Goose. Look at you, number one on the leaderboard. So you get bonuses, box office bonuses. So if a movie clears, they build in benchmarks. So if it makes $500 million, you get a certain amount of money probably. If it makes $1 billion, you get more. And so, for instance, Harrison Ford has also taken home a couple $100 million, or at least $100 million payday, or $60 million, somewhere around there, for when he was coming back as Indiana Jones, because he got paid a lot, and then he would get bonuses as well. So, and by the way, I want to point out to you that most actors are unemployed, and a lot of actors spend a very long time being unemployed. Like, for instance, Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal had a very moving interview recently where he said he mourns his dog who passed away because his dog never got to experience the good life that he now enjoys, because his dog was there during the hard times when Pedro Pascal had to work 3 jobs to even just be able to afford to live. And Sarah Paulson was giving him her per diem so that he could eat. That's right, Morph. Only 2% of actors get regular work. So I think, people should be a little bit more understanding when actors finally do hit it big and ask for these big paydays, because they've paid their dues. They've put in the time, and now it's time to get that money. So that's how Robert Downey Jr. was able to get that much money. Happy birthday, early birthday to you, Briz. Okay, so then Doom. And by the way, Robert Downey Jr.'s had a difficult time himself. He had substance abuse issues. He actually went to jail or prison. He's had a difficult life as well. That's why he's a little bit more sympathetic to people like Mel Gibson. I don't think anybody should be sympathetic to Mel Gibson from what I've heard about him. But I think that's what Robert Downey Jr. is coming from. A very difficult life for himself. All right, so for Doom, he's getting another $100 million. Add that up on top of that, baby. He's getting $100 million for Doomsday and Secret Wars. However, that $100 million covers not just his upfront salary, but the likely bonuses that will kick in, and also perks, as one of you just mentioned. Robert Downey Jr., they pay for his setup on set. You were hearing Anthony Mackie talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s little camp that he has built on set, which is like a luxury hotel, which all the other actors go and enjoy. I don't think he's really a Nepo baby. There are so many Nepo babies in Hollywood. I don't know if I'd categorize Robert Downey Jr. that way. Maybe. And then also they pay for his travel. They pay for his security detail. He's getting and they're shooting the movies pretty much back to back. So I guess that's one of the reasons that it also makes sense. So that's what he's getting paid. All right. Danny says he remembers Lizzie only getting $1 million. But guess what? I mean, David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan got under $1 million for Superman. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, as I told you, one of my industry friends said that was insulting, that Cornsweet and Brosnahan didn't get $3 million to be the stars of a major blockbuster. Hey, Forrester. I mean, I'm surprised that. I guess they had no choice, but it was really kind of not a cool thing for Warner Brothers to do to them. It's really kind of embarrassing. Well, that's the first Hunger Games, and Hunger Games Rainbow Nomad wasn't a really big franchise at that time. And by the way, I love Jennifer Lawrence's story. When Jennifer Lawrence signed for the first Hunger Games, she had sequels already built into her contract at a specified rate. When the movie blew up, Jennifer Lawrence, what she did was she refused to return to set, even though she was contractually obligated to for the sequels for not a lot of money. But she just said, I refuse to show up until you give me more. And they did. So good for her. I mean, you don't hear a lot of women negotiating that way. And I think that Jennifer Lawrence has gotten in a little bit of hot water for being a little abrasive, but I think that was really iconic what she did, and she succeeded, which is very exciting. X-Men Superfan says Nepo Baby is Nepo Baby, but if they're good, it's another thing, like Lily Collins. Well, yeah, and also Nepo Babies really have to prove themselves, because everyone goes, aren't you a Nepo Baby? And they have to be like, but I'm a talented Nepo Baby. And you go, let's see what you got, Nepo Baby. Like, who doesn't love Jack Quaid? I love Jack Quaid. Okay, he's a Nepo Baby. He looks exactly like Meg Ryan, but every time he smiles, you see Dennis Quaid trying to get out. You're like, oh my God, there's Dennis Quaid. It's really funny. Okay, so, but there are so many of them, Sockley? That's a good question about Nepo Babies, why there are so many of them. I think obviously everybody wants a great life for their child, right? You can't hold that against them. And also, Hollywood, as I've told you many times, is really a business of who you know. So it's very hard for a new actor to get an agent or a manager or to get cast. But when their parents are already working and they can say, hey, here's my kid, that does a lot. And so I think that that's one of the reasons there are so many of them. Also, their parents are very understanding of the business and more willing. I mean, it's such a huge risk to become an actor. It's why you don't see, that's why I think that they have trouble finding actors who look like athletes to play these characters in movies, because that type of person just isn't willing to take that risk with their life. The House of Overthinking. I love it. It says, if a Nepo Baby has done the work, you'd be surprised when you learn who their parents are versus knowing who they are because of their parents. Great point. Like, who has a problem with Dakota Johnson? I mean, I think she does a great job. Hey, Twinkle. Twinkle, twinkle. And also, by the way, we only use the term Nepo Babies in Hollywood, but there's tons of Nepo Babies in every business, Businesses are often passed down, personally owned businesses are passed down to the next generation often. And very often, there are legacy candidates at colleges, like they get special consideration. That's one of the reasons that people work so hard, because it brings up their entire, not just themselves, but their whole family and their generations to come. So that's what people talk about. Like, I've always talked about this with my family. Hey, Twinkle, hey, Bubbles. The point of you're always, like, every generation should try to move their family a little bit forward. Even if it's just a little, even if it's just a yard, to use football terms. But, you just want to move the whole group forward a little bit and not lose any ground. Hey, insecurity guard, that's hilarious. Hey, Bubbles. Very generous. But yes, hey, Morphed. So I think those are, you don't know what a Nepo Baby is, Poke? It's for nepotism, where, you're benefiting of your parents' success. Okay, that's what a Nepo Baby is. Back to Robert, who, by the way, I forgot Robert Downey Jr. even was a Nepo Baby. Okay. So, worth it? Well, let's see here. Well, for instance, he has been with the MCU since day one. The MCU would not be what it is to this day if not for his success as Iron Man. He was very successful as Iron Man. He really, let's do a poll. We'll do a poll. You guys can vote while we discuss this. Is RDJ worth all this money to the MCU? Yes, every penny. Then valuable, but not this valuable. And then, nope. And by the way, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. All you got to do is click on that little in the box, and you'll be able to cast your vote. And that's a good point, Nax, that it is crumbling today. Although I'm sure Robert Downey Jr., his agents say, you know, I can't help but notice that the MCU started to crumble when he left it. Right? Because, you know, he built it all the way through Endgame. And Robert Downey Jr. wasn't one of those actors who didn't work very hard to promote it. He's always been on the red carpets. He's been proud to be Iron Man until he needed an Oscar. And then he was like, I'm done. And then he got his Oscar and said, I'm back. That's right, X-Men superfan. Liza Minnelli is a great Nepo baby. There are a lot of good Nepo babies. So anyway, you know, I think he was very valuable for a very long time. I think he really did help build the MCU. And I also think that what he doesn't get credit for is that I think Robert Downey Jr. brought a lot of normies into the MCU. For instance, my mother loves Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. I got her a pair of Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark sunglasses, when they were very popular after, I think, Spider-Man Far From Home, his glasses. And I think, I have to tell you that ever since Robert Downey Jr. left, my mother has been significantly less interested in the MCU. Although I told her that he was coming back as Doom, and she felt that was stupid. And also, I think she's just kind of over superhero movies, so I don't know if he's gonna be able to bring her back. But I don't know. She really liked Tony Stark. However, I think he's not thinking about what happened to him towards the end of his run. He muscled his way into Civil War, as many of you remember, and as I reported. He saw how popular Captain America was becoming, and he was like, I want in there, right? Because he really does feel that he is supposed to be the face of the MCU. I'm glad to see some of you also have those glasses from Tony Stark. They're great. And I think that, I was surprised, but I was really surprised that so many people didn't agree with him. He really almost became the villain of that movie to a lot of people. That was when Captain America became more popular in the MCU. I'll never forget it. It was really amazing. And then also Spider-Man. Robert Downey Jr. also muscled his way into Spider-Man. And while I do think he helped the Homecoming movie, I think people got tired of it pretty quickly, particularly because they felt that Spider-Man was kind of becoming an Iron Man sidekick. Iron Spider, people just wanted him to be Spider-Man. And I saw a lot of complaints during that period. So I don't think that Robert Downey Jr. is in the same place that he was when he was at the height of his popularity in Marvel. And I think to a degree, I wish that he was coming back as artificial intelligence Tony Stark, the AI version that eventually becomes real in the comics. That's the way he came back in the comics. I think that him being Doom is more similar to what he did here and here than what he did here. That's a little bit what I'm concerned about. Oh, that's right, Plum Sparkle, or Superior Iron Man, who we were hoping to see in Multiverse of Madness. So I have one other point that I want to say, and then we could do a couple of your questions. I see your questions coming in here fast and furiously. So this quote said, there was a rumor that was reported the other day by Puck News, Matt Maloney, who used to run The Hollywood Reporter, and he said that opposite Doom, the two leads of Doomsday would be Chris Hemsworth's Thor and Pedro Pascal's Mr. Fantastic. They really didn't have good character. Mr. Fantastic barely used his powers in the movie, which I thought was weird. And he ended up being, I think, somewhat divisive to fans. I didn't think he was a great Reed Richards, but a lot of people do, and I see that. Not Yelena, apparently. I think that's a mistake. But this report from Variety clarified that Hemsworth would be a big star in the movie, but Pascal is not a centerpiece, but plays a significant role. We'll see. I don't understand. I mean, who is Doom the villain of in the MCU? He's supposed to be Reed Richards' villain, but of course they have not been able to establish that relationship. I do think they need to have, Danny, to not have Yelena and Sam in this is nuts, particularly because that's a female and character of color. And you're like, what about those people? And I think it would be a mistake to get rid of them. And you might say, well, their last movies were not well received. Well, neither was Thor or Love and Thunder. So, well, I don't know what you guys are talking about, right? Okay, so let me look at some of your questions and comments before we get to the next story. I see that I missed a few of them. Hold on, let me go back there. Okay, so Ford says RDJ should have come back as Superior Iron Man. Him being cast as Doom was a terrible decision. They should have just recast Kang since they invested so much in the character. I think Kang is a tough character with all the time travel and I think the multiverse I think Deadpool was right. The multiverse has not really worked out for Marvel. But I do think he should have been Superior Iron Man. I don't think this is going to work, but I hope that it does. I mean, it's better for me, from my business perspective, if it does. Morphed says, I think Marvel is back, but we're too jaded to see it. I'm a DC person, but Thunderbolts and F4 were amazing. Well, Morphed, the proof is in the box office, and it's looking like Fantastic Four is going to fall even further behind Superman this weekend. But of course, we'll have to wait and see to know for sure. I'm not going to report on speculation. I'm going to report on the actual numbers when they come in. Yaya says, yes, he is, but as Iron Man, Doom is a gamble. Oh, so you think he's worth it if he was coming back as Iron Man? That's true. I think that's a good thing to say. I better close that poll in a minute. Wanda's attorney. Hey, Wanda's attorney says, I think everyone hates RDJ as Doom. We'll take a poll in a moment. Let me close the poll so we can do that poll. Okay. So, 52% of you feel he's valuable, but not that valuable. 29% feel worth every penny. And 17% say, no, he's not. That's not bad, I mean, I think it's never great for these salaries to be publicized because they are really eye-popping. And, I think there's no context, obviously. So let's see here. Do you like the idea of RDJ as MCU Doom? Love it. So clever. And then I'm open to it. Then I have a bad feeling about this. To borrow from Star Wars. And then such a bad idea. All right, and by the way, again, anyone who's watching can vote in the poll. It's so nice to see so many of you. Hello, everyone. Even if you're not a member, I see you. I see you and I appreciate you. Okay, let's see here. Let me go back. I was working my way through the questions. Where was I? Okay, I saw Yaya and Steven basically said the same thing. I'm glad you made it, Ryan. Okay, and then Matthew says, FF reportedly pulled in 170 in advertiser tie-ins. Could RDJ pull in even more? Well, it's Avengers Doomsday. I think that'll get a lot of tie-ins. I think that's going to be a really big deal. It's an Avengers movie, and there hasn't been an Avengers movie since Endgame. So there's going to be a lot of interest in that. I mean, if I were McDonald's, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'll do Avengers Doomsday Happy Meal. Sockley says, if Doomsday doesn't make a Billy, will it be the end of Marvel? Thanks for using the term Billy. I appreciate it. I took it personally when that one person said they didn't think Billy would work. I'm like, I disagree. I won't use it too much, though. You don't want to run it into the ground. I think Doomsday's got to make $1 billion. But again, it's shifting perspectives. If it made like 800 to 900 million, I think that would be okay. Although you'd be like, I can't believe I paid Robert Downey Jr. that much money not to get $1 billion. But let's see. Who said that? Poke, yep, AI Tony should have been an Ironheart. That would have been a lot better than all those social media videos he made. X-Men Superfan says, I don't like the whitewashing of Romani characters like Doom and Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, with Lila being changed to Sicilian. Who's Lila again? Yeah, it would be nice, to kind of do a little bit more representation. I think that's important. But I mean, Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda has been just so popular. But yeah, I think I think that speaking of Wanda, again, Wanda and Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark relationship is just so rich and so complex. You're like, how are you going to have them on this, potentially the same screen together in the same story and not address that? Especially because that's always been Marvel's secret sauce, that they do connect all the dots. And then Jordan wanted classic Doom, not Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. They have to bring all the Doom fans together. What happens if it doesn't work out? I think that you're going to see major change in the leadership at Marvel. But, again, it's way too early to tell. Dove Harley Quinn says, Doom seems to be a Sue villain. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's what I said in my coverage. So I'm like, why is Reed the main? Why wouldn't it be Vanessa Kirby? Right? But, I think she's obviously going to be, to some degree, potentially working with Doom, either of her own free will or not. And then Steven says, I think in real life people have become sick of billionaires, and that bleeds into how people feel about Tony and Robert Downey. Yes, I do think that's true. I do think that's very true. I think very much so. I think that is a big thing that has impacted the way the character is perceived. Oh my God, goodness, let me get through these questions pretty fast. Adam Sphere, I think Robert Downey Jr. can be villainous. As you just said, he was in Oppenheimer. Let's see here. Daniel Craig would have been a great Doom. I agree. But I also liked people's Cillian Murphy casting. Your Oyster Bay says, bringing back RDJ gives desperate and emphasizes people's complaints about Disney doing performative representation. Well, I think it's just more, it's very gimmicky. I think that's part of the problem of it, But, sometimes that works, Like Hugh Jackman coming back was wonderful. But I could only hope that that Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom has as good a script as the Deadpool and Wolverine script. I know people like to bag on that movie, but I mean, when you think of, again, his monologue in the car was just so incredible. Sean says casting should be more diverse with Asian American and British Asian Westerners. Well, yeah, and I think, for instance, I've said I would like to see diverse casting in DC with Damian Wayne and Talia al Ghul. I thought it was horrible when Marion Cotillard played Talia al Ghul and Liam Neeson was Ra's al Ghul. I mean, Christopher Nolan gets away with an awful lot because fans like him so much personally. Riley says, if the fight between Yelena and Mystique is true for Doom, I'm stat. Oh, I didn't even hear that. I'm excited. I hope, if there's one thing the Russo brothers know how to do, it's give you great action sequences. Yelena has so much trauma. Mystique would have so much fun with that. And Yaya, I don't know if it robs us of an Iron Man return. I bet you to some degrees this will be seen as an Iron Man return. And Morph says, F4 and Thunderbolts from my perspective, business-wise, you're right. Oh, so you just think creatively. I see what you're saying. And then O'Hadkin says, do you think Dune 3 and the Avengers will come out the same day? No, one will blink. I'm glad you made the stream, Nathan. And then Questionable Burrito says, do you think that Marvel can pump enough money into Doomsday Secret Wars so they can make a small loss on the films but save the franchise overall? Yeah, I mean, I really think they have to make sure people feel these are endgame level movies. And yes, Santiago, I'm still hoping for the return of Elizabeth Olsen. I think I got to get going to the next story. I'm glad for everybody's enthusiasm in this, though. I don't know what Demon in an Armor is. Do you mean Demon in a Bottle? And then Casey says, if F4 had 60% plus second weekend drop, Warner Brothers shouldn't move Dune 3. No. Don't sacrifice Dune. Move it up 2 weeks. So you do to Doomsday what Superman did to Fantastic Four. Don't sacrifice Dune for some kind of competition. Save Dune! And then Randall says, what if Elizabeth Olsen is the one of the secret director's chair? That would make spending that much. I don't know. I hope so. And then Oliver says, Liza Minnelli became as iconic as her mother. That's right. I appreciate the Liza Minnelli love, but I think it's time to move on to the next story. Okay, let me close the poll. All right, here, hold on. Here we go. Come on, poll. Where the heck's the poll? Is the chat not working? Ah! Should I try refreshing my own window? I think that would hurt the stream. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Ben. I just saw that you gifted those memberships. Thank you very much. Okay, here's the poll. Okay, 38% of you are open to it. 30% of you have a bad feeling. 26% think it's a horrible idea, but only 4% of you love it. So that's pretty bad. It looks like 56% of you think it's negative. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Oh yes, Ben Pello, a birthday gift to everyone. That's so sweet of you. All right, let's get to the next story of the day. Story number 2. Boop. All righty, K-pop Demon Hunters. Have you not still not watched this? You gotta watch it, man. This thing is a sensation. Okay, so we just talked about it the other day on Movie Math. One of you made the comparison that it was the new Frozen, and now that is what is being said everywhere. And Netflix also feels that it's their Disney Princess franchise, which is incredible, which means they think it's going to print money. I'm so glad some of you watched it on my recommendation and I introduced you to this wonderful world. Okay, so then one of the places that it's doing really well is merchandise. For instance, this cat, everybody loves this cat. Everybody wants this plush cat, which is currently now on back order, hugely popular. In fact, this was supposed to be a set. They covered this today in the wrap, and they said that there's a plush cat that they have that was supposed to be just a gift for the cast and crew when they wrapped, but they were like, "Oh my God, we need merch!" So now they're selling it for $50, and it's on pre-order. But what's interesting to me is, merch is where there's a lot of money, and nobody can leverage merch quite like Disney. Disney, it was announced, made $63 billion in sales in 2024 alone. $63 billion in a single year. And that includes not only their own merchandise, but their licensees. They license their characters to all kinds of companies and stores. So that's amazing. That gives them 20% of the overall global marketplace. That's incredible. I myself have contributed to that. I own a lot of Disney merch as well. Now Netflix, and I think you're right, Just Blaze Disney, how appropriate, says that the parks are a big part of why they have that kind of success, and I think that's true. And so they have the parks, and I think that adds to it, and they're very much in the space of the real world. Whereas Netflix, for the most part, has existed in the digital space only. They have something they're introducing called Netflix House, though. They're building a couple of Netflix houses in a few major cities, which will have rotating experiences. Now, I've done a couple of the Netflix experiences that have been like traveling exhibits. I did the Stranger Things, and I did the Squid Game. I thought they were fantastic, really, really strong. And I'm curious to see how this Netflix house works. But I think that I think Netflix, you're going to see them trying to move more into the real world, because the truth of the matter is that they're passing up a lot of money. They could be making a lot of money here, particularly when they have IP like Stranger Things, Squid Game, and now K-pop Demon Hunters. They were totally caught unawares by the success of K-pop Demon Hunters, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we don't have any merch for this," and it's been tough for them. Oh, poor multi-million-dollar company. All right, so what are they planning? So it was revealed that they're thinking of doing an animated trilogy, 2 more animated movies. However, that's right, where are the dolls, Chico? That's a great point. Dolls would sell, I think, extremely well, dolls and action figures. They also are thinking of doing animated shorts because, and I forgot to load the image, Frozen, remember, had 2 shorts, Frozen Fever, about the spring, and then also Olaf's Adventure, which played in front of Coco, and I'll never forget it because people are like, why are you making me wait an extra half an hour for Coco to start? Olaf doesn't go with this movie at all. It was really rough. However, those short films kind of carried over the audience interest until they had Frozen 2. So they're thinking of doing the same thing here because animation takes so long. So they want to do a couple of K-pop Demon Hunters shorts to keep the audience engaged. So what would these stories be about? I think they have a lot of material, particularly because of the situation that they set up. So for those of you who aren't familiar, there have always been a girl group of singers creating this barrier between the real world and demons with their music. And this is out of order, but you know, they started here in like ancient feudal Korea, South Korea, and they've gone all the way up. You've got them like in the 1920s, kind of, the 40s, the 60s, and like down here, the 80s. And then of course, like today. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I think you could do a lot with these characters. You could do a short, and it would showcase a different style of music because music is such a strong part of it. That's right, Status. They could do music videos. That would be a great idea. I mean, I hope they can continue to write songs that are that good. Oh, that's right. It's very similar to Agatha All Along. I like that. But yeah, so I think they have something very much there. Also, for those of you, I don't want to give anything away. Let's just say that Rumi, the lead character here with purple hair, she has very interesting parentage. And I think that, you know, the original movie was cut down significantly because Netflix wanted it to be under 2 hours. So they never told the story of Rumi's parents. And I think a lot of us are very curious as to how, you know, Rumi is very much Elsa, even down to the braid, come to think of it. So I think people would love to know what happened to Rumi's parents. So that to me seems like an obvious short. Particularly if they already did a lot of the work, they could take the stuff that they cut from the film that was released, and that stuff is probably pretty close to being done. So that would be great. Now then, of course, there's another question, and they mentioned that they might do a live-action remake because, of course, those have done so well for Disney. What if they did K-pop Demon Hunters? Well, Poke has a good question. Is this from Sony? Netflix owns the rights to K-pop Demon Hunter. Sony I think their plans are for Sony to stay as their creative partner, but Netflix owns the rights to this. You know, it's a little bit like Pixar might have made Toy Story, but Disney owned the rights. So Disney said, you know, Pixar, you might not want to make a sequel to Toy Story or be purchased by us, but if you say no, we're just going to make it ourselves. So there's a real concern that you might have K-pop Demon Hunters a sequel made just by Netflix if Sony doesn't play along. But Sony likes money. They're going to play along. Hey, John Teal. Then also, Oliver, you got to watch this movie. I've watched it twice. I listen to the music and rewatch the songs all the time. It's really good. This, I think, is for adults. I think everybody likes it. It's very silly and it has a lot of action, which is awesome. Also, they have not signed the directors. The directors are about to make a lot of money because the directors, and I think they are crucial to continuing with this. I think it would be a huge mistake, and I think the fans would be furious if they didn't continue with the same talent. But those directors don't have deals going forward, so they're going to make some money. Now, if you're going to do live action remake, it's that good, Psycho. It really is. I mean, I think this is as good as the first Frozen. I rewatched Frozen recently when I was in Florida, actually, one night in the hotel room, and I actually thought it held up better than I remembered. As I thought that Frozen 2 was actually more depressing than I remembered. I was like, why is this movie about death? Okay, I was like, work through your problems on your own time, Jennifer Lee. Okay, so the question is, how would you cast this movie, right? I think if they didn't do Asian actresses, the internet would just absolutely revolt. I think it would be just an absolute disaster. Maybe they could do one Asian actress, a white actress and then a black or Hispanic actress. But I think people would just be furious. And I think, right now, like a lot of animation out of Asia, it's like they're clearly Korean, but I think, some people, I think it's a little bit, on the line. I think it would be just I think they should just leave it the way that it is. I think it's very successful the way it is. I would not touch it. Also, Squid Game has an entirely Korean cast, and everybody loves it. So I think that what's the problem here, right? Okay. Also, I don't know how in live action you would ever be able to do the action sequences and stuff like that. I just don't think it would work. I agree with you. I am against a live action adaptation as well. I think it would be nothing but a big headache for Netflix. The other thing I have a question about, though, is could they possibly duplicate the incredible songs that they have here? They certainly couldn't duplicate them for Frozen 2. Frozen doesn't have nearly the same quality of music as the first film. Even though it has the same people doing the music, the songs. They just could not deliver again. I'm sure Lin-Manuel Miranda feels the same pressure for a potential Encanto sequel. It's just the K-pop soundtrack, and here are the songs. You can see them in the Billboard top charts. Golden is number 1 here, Golden is number 1 here, and it's number 2 here. It's just an incredible soundtrack. I listen to it all the time, and I think, I'd be nervous if I were Netflix as to whether or not they could get songs that were that good. But I have to tell you, a lot of the songs here are good. In Frozen, it was really kind of just Let It Go that I think was, I don't know, Do You Want to Build a Snowman was also extremely good. But I'd say almost every song here is fantastic. And you can see other ones here as well. So, and here on this chart, not only is Golden there, but so is Soda Pop and Your Idol and How It's Done. Those are all Demon Hunter songs. Here you've also got Soda Pop, Your Idol, and How It's Done. I love Soda Pop. That's my favorite, I think. And then here, I don't see any of the other ones here. Okay? But very, very popular. Then my other question is, do you try to move this to the theatrical space? People are talking about the fact that while this is very successful, and Frozen, of course, was a $1 billion movie, one of the things that's so great about K-pop Demon Hunters, and I think fed the mania, was that because it was available on Netflix right away, you could watch the movie again and again and again immediately. Like, I watched it 2 days in a row. I wasn't feeling very well the day that it came out, so I watched it in the afternoon. I was only going to watch a little bit, and I ended up watching the whole thing. And then I watched it again the next day with somebody else because I was like, you got to see this thing, and I would love to watch it again. So it's so good that you can watch it multiple times in a row. And so I don't know. That's a great idea, Crunchy Scarf. Play a short before the next Spider-Verse movie. That's a great idea. Oh, I hope they think of that. But, how would that benefit Netflix? Netflix would have to agree to that because Netflix is not a theatrical business. And Netflix owns the rights to this. So maybe they'll allow it to be in both places. Maybe it would play in front of that movie, but then it would debut at the same time on Netflix so fans could watch it in the theater and then go home and watch it a bunch of times already. So we'll see what they decide to do. If you have not yet watched K-pop Demon Hunters, I strongly urge you to do so. Not only because it's extremely good, but you should really know what's going on in the world. Even if you're not interested in the business, I think a really good rule in life is to know and be familiar with things that are super popular. That's something my grandfather did, He always was aware of the latest trends, even if he wasn't partaking in them, and even when he got to be much older. And I think that it's, I'm glad you're going to watch it, theater kid. You can always turn it off. I don't think you will. But I think it's important to know what people are talking about. And this is truly a sensation. I think it's already the most watched animated film in Netflix history. And I think probably in the next week or so, it's going to break into the all-time overall chart for Netflix movies. So it's just a huge, huge hit. Okay. I love Blue Eye Samurai, Dallas, but that's a series. Look at you, Morphed. What are you doing there? That's crazy. Well, I'm congrats on your very interesting love life. Okay. You really stumped me there, Morphed. I don't even know what to say to that. Okay, story number 3. Boom, baby. Oh, I forgot to close it. Where did it? Okay. Here we go. This is actually, to me, just as exciting as the other 2 stories. Oh, this is a good one. All right, so here's my arrow. Let's talk about it. So I think it's funny that they're calling it The Social Network Part 2 to give it that elitist element of The Godfather, but of course also The Batman, which is going with the Part 2. So I think that's very funny. If everybody does it, though, it's going to lose all of its meaning, but it's very funny. So Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin's career is only going okay right now, all right? He's very successful. Here's his movies, and here's his television history. Sports Night is what put him on the map. He actually started out in 1992. He was a playwright, and A Few Good Men was a play that he actually wrote. And when it became a movie, that helped him with his Hollywood career. So he was writing these movies, and he did very well. Sports Night and The West Wing made him really famous, and I'm sure made him a ton of money, like just an absolute ton of money, because, you know, he gets money from the syndication for West Wing. So anytime West Wing plays anywhere, Aaron Sorkin gets a check. He's tried to repeat his success with Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, R.I.P. Matthew Perry, and also Newsroom, but it just didn't really work out, those 2. As for movies, he was kind of on a hot streak there. The Social Network and Moneyball and Steve Jobs were great for him, but I think he's really struggled the last couple of movies. And in fact, Chicago 7 and The Ricardos, I believe, were both Netflix movies. I kind of liked Being the Ricardos, and I kind of liked The Trial of the Chicago 7. Yeah, Molly's Game was awful. And I'm not just saying that because Jessica Chastain was in it. She was actually miscast. I forget what happened. At that time, there was another movie that came out, and I felt that Jessica Chastain and the other actress should have switched roles. But they didn't. Oh, Ricardo's was Amazon. Thank you, Plum Sparkle. So yeah, your name's usually Pie, right? Yeah. But yeah, so I think Sorkin was like, how can I recapture my former glory? And he came up with doing a sequel to The Social Network. So this is what the story is going to be this time around. The first one, of course, talked about how he stole the idea, Mark Zuckerberg, from the Winklevoss brothers. And boy, look what happened to Armie Hammer. So, Danny's like, do we even need a sequel? Well, I think it's interesting because he wants to focus on the fact that Facebook knew that their algorithm was targeting and hurting underage users, teenagers and kids, and that also that they contributed to the attempted coup attempt of January 6th. So I thought that was I think those are interesting. But here's what's particularly interesting to me about it. He's going to focus on the age of tech bros that we're currently in, but Mountainhead actually covered this exact same thing. This movie was from the creator of Succession. It aired on Netflix and on Max, did not do well. I, Tonya, was that the one I said that she and Margot Robbie should have? I sure that. I don't know if they feel, that seems kind of similar to me. I don't know if I still agree with myself. All right, so anyway, Mountainhead was about tech bros contributing to global chaos. And it imagined even more surreal situation than January 6th. And then it got weird. But yeah, so thankfully it didn't do well, so that's going to protect this upcoming movie. Now, what's very interesting is that Jesse Eisenberg said no. He apparently has turned down The Social Network 2 and reprising his role as Mark Zuckerberg. Some people are wondering if it's a negotiating tactic to try and get more money. I mean, let's take a look at what Jesse Eisenberg's, where his career currently is. He's struggling. You know, he has the Zombieland franchise, which I was in, so I appreciate it. Zombieland 2. And of course, he just had a real breakthrough with A Real Pain, produced by Emma Stone. Got him nominated for an Oscar, won one for Kieran Culkin, who's from Succession. Small world in Hollywood. But I think that you would think he would want to build on that. And he also has the upcoming, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the third film in that franchise. But I would think he would want to do this for sure. I think it's crazy that he's not doing this project. It seems insane to me that he would say no. So because he said no, the rumor is that Jeremy Strong is the new frontrunner. And some people say maybe he's going to play the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal. Who knows? But I got to tell you, I think that Jeremy Strong would be a great choice for this. And I think that, Mark Zuckerberg must be like, I don't know, maybe he likes it. Maybe Jeff Bezos is like, why doesn't anybody make a movie about me? Okay, he's like, I'm doing just as horrible stuff, man. I just had a major wedding. But I got to tell you, I think that what Mark Zuckerberg has become has Jeremy Strong written all over it. Now, of course, he remade himself to try and be cool, and it worked on some people. Some people today, particularly like the MAGA bros, they think Mark Zuckerberg is cool, right? Like, he's got this, curly hair, and he's got the chain, and he does the UFC training. Remember when he and Elon Musk challenged each other to a fight? That was hilarious. Those were simpler days. But I think there's a lot for Jeremy Strong to work with here. Jeremy Strong is a big method actor. I think he would love this. It's just so much for him to do. So that's interesting. And I looked at it, and Jeremy Strong and Jesse Eisenberg are basically about the same age these days. 44, I believe, and 41. So it's not like they're going with an older actor because, Zuckerberg is older. I think it all lines up. But then what's interesting is the rest of the cast. So it's also been announced that Jeremy Allen White from The Bear will play Jeff Horowitz, that crazy dude there with the bandana, who was a Wall Street Journal reporter at the time who helped break the story that Facebook was aware of what they were doing. So that's a great role for him. I think it's a very strong role for him. I think he's very well cast in that. And then what I like the most, besides after the Jeremy Strong situation, is Mikey Madison, who said no to Star Wars and held out, and I think she's got something really nice here. She would play Frances Haugen, the whistleblower at Facebook, who revealed all this by giving it to the Wall Street Journal. She gave it to this reporter, and that's how it came to light. Although I'd like to point out that nothing happened, and that Facebook is still operating just as it always was, and doing even perhaps potentially more damage, and nobody cares. There were no repercussions. Maybe they might have gotten fined, who knows, but it's pretty crazy. So maybe perhaps that'll be the moral of the story. And we'll see if anyone's interested in it. It's interesting that you say it could be like Bombshell, Wanda's attorney, because, that was the thing about what happened with Megyn Kelly before she had her own meltdown over at Fox News. And nobody really cared about that movie, even though it had an amazing cast. No one cared. Nothing happened to some degree. Some stuff did happen, but Fox News is still here. And also, I think that before everybody was like, how dare Facebook? Now there's a lot of people. I liked Bombshell too, Garnet Fire. There are a lot of people who are on Zuckerberg's side. They're like, he likes UFC fighting just like me. And, they support him and they feel he's supportive of them. And I think they would be maybe against this movie, especially because it's going to wade into politics by saying January 6th. And then also, Elon Musk controls what you see on Twitter. Is he going to promote a movie that says technology and social media are detrimental to kids and teenagers? They don't need that out in the space. So I think that's, I'll be very curious to see how, social media fights back against this because it's just so damning to them. All right, so what did you guys have any questions or comments about this? Yeah, Ray's Wig. I think this is a great next step for Mikey Madison. Linzek, I agree that I do not think that the general audience would care that much. And that's interesting that you bring up Adam McKay pie, because that is very Adam McKay-like, although these movies have never done that well for Adam McKay, interestingly enough. See, look, KC just said that Zuck and Musk are 1,000 times more popular than any of the Hollywood types, which is fascinating to me because they have even more money, and yet you do not hold that against them. And that, that's fascinating to me. Steven says this sounds like a better miniseries than a movie. Well, nobody watched any of those. We Worked was really good, and you're right, the Elizabeth Holmes one was excellent. Yes, Rayswig, Sorkin will direct, whereas David Fincher directed the first Social Network. Everybody's switching directors' chairs. Fincher's right now directing the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Adventures of Cliff Booth, with Brad Pitt sporting the ugliest mustache I've ever seen. I can't believe they let him go on camera with that mustache. When he came on set, I'd be like, get that off your lip, but next time I see you, it better not be there. Adam Sphere, what do you mean Batman 2? Matt Reeves is doing Batman 2. Alberto says, do you think that for audiences, TikTok may be used for news more than X? Yeah, TikTok's addictive. You're not on there because of your own free will. They suck you in. Look, see, Pi likes mustaches and felt it was ugly. It's hideous. It's the ugliest. Considering how hot he was, Brad Pitt, in the first movie, the fact that he would actually go from looking super hot to worse. Oh, you mean Kendall Roy, that he's supposed to be Mr. Freeze. Oh, yeah, well, he's going to take, I don't know. That's fascinating. Let's poll it. I won't tell you what role I think he should take until you vote, because people say I influence the poll, which is very flattering. Which role would you advise Jeremy Strong to take? Mr. Freeze, Mark Zuckerberg. Doom? That's funny, Grumpy. He'd actually be a very good Doom. I'd love to see Pedro Pascal and Jeremy Strong fight. Oliver, I missed your super chat. You think Fincher really elevated the first film? I think he did, for sure. I don't know how compelling a director Aaron Sorkin is, to be honest with you. All right, anyone can vote in a poll. Once again, you don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. All you have to do is click, and your voice can be heard. All right, I'm just giving a moment here. Classic movie lover, Stanley Tucci's a good B choice for Mr. Freeze. I would agree with that casting. That's not bad. Although I think the Tooch is a little overexposed. I think the Tooch, I don't know if he would be as compelling to fanboys. Track Nerd says, if nothing happened to Facebook legally, why is this such a compelling story? Because nothing did happen. It's like they're trying to try Facebook again in the court of public opinion. I think that's kind of what they're doing. Well, yeah, always, Stanley Tucci is in The Devil Wears Prada too, but that's a very different audience than the Batman. All right. I'm going to close the poll. All right, a lot of you didn't have a thought on this. Let's see here. So 69% think he should prioritize Mr. Freeze, and 30% of you think Mark Zuckerberg. Well, I guess I made it a little obvious, but yes, I too would prioritize Mr. Freeze. I think that Jeremy Strong is I would suspect that there's a very strong chance the Social Network movie would be ignored and potentially maligned by a large part of the general population. And so it would not get Oscar nominations, and it would potentially not help his career, but maybe even hurt it. if potentially, especially because now so many people, when Jesse Eisenberg played Mark Zuckerberg, and maybe that's why Eisenberg said no. When Jesse Eisenberg played Mark Zuckerberg, no one liked the guy. He was an easy punching bag. Now he has quite a number of fans. Although I have to say, Jeremy Strong did an amazing job portraying Donald Trump's mentor in The Apprentice. And he, I think, made that character very interesting and still gave him dignity, even though what he did was awful. So I think that's very interesting. So maybe that might work. Maybe Jeremy Strong could walk that fine line. But I think that Mr. Freeze is a slam dunk. And I think it would give him a broader audience. And of course, as everybody knows, once you're in a comic book movie or a big franchise project, people become infinitely more interested in your other work. So I think it would help Jeremy Strong's career overall. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A because we're already at an hour. So ask me anything for 10 minutes, and then I must go. One second, just checking something here. Okay. Steve, I will be reviewing Wednesday. In fact, I've watched all 4 episodes already, and the embargo, though, is when the show drops, as is the case for all Netflix projects. Let's see here. Verdant says, finally watched Paradise. Isn't it good? I'm so excited for the 2nd season. Let's see here. I don't know if I'll be covering season 2. It depends when it comes out. It's not really that type of show. Maybe I'll tweet about it, but I'm certainly going to be watching. Rodney says, hey Grace, next month will be fascinating. Freakier Friday is 2 days before your 26th birthday, and then after my birthday, you have a concert 2 days after. Sounds like someone's going to have a great birthday week. I love you too, Hypertop. Let's see here. Let's see here. Hey, NGN8. I'm still working on the thing that you sent me. And yes, I'm excited for Weapons myself. I can't make that press screening either, so I'm going to have to review it when the frickin' movie comes out. Let's see here. Garnet Fire says, Maddie Phillips, Kate from Gen Z for Emma Frost or Harley Quinn. She'd maybe be a good Harley Quinn. I don't think she has the regal quality of Emma Frost, but she might be a good Harley. Yes, Denzel, I will review Weapons. And I haven't seen Naked Gun yet, but I will be seeing it this evening, and I will review it tomorrow morning. Grumpy, that Ray movie is supposed to be going ahead, although it's taken forever. She's going to be like old Obi-Wan age by the time they get to it. Hey, Jero and Sydney. I'm sorry that the weather's so bad there. John Teal says, how about DC bringing back Affleck Cavill to play Thomas Wayne Batman? No, I think that James Gunn just doesn't want the drama, And then everyone will be like, he's so much better than Corn Sweat, even in this one scene. My pleasure, Adam Sphere. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Danny, I saw that James Gunn said he was working on the Superman sequel, but he didn't say, remember he told you it wasn't a direct sequel. I still feel it's world's finest, but let's see. I just hope it's not Justice Gang. But who are we kidding? I'll watch it. I liked Superman so much. I'm like, whatever, man. I'm excited. Stardust says, hey, Grace, have you been able to watch the Naked... I haven't watched. I'm going to watch it this evening. Yes, Paris Ryan. This will be quite the interesting movie math this weekend. Superman is passing 300 million domestic, but its overseas box office is still in the toilet, and Fantastic Four is struggling. Oh, Chico, yeah, I didn't react to the new Conjuring trailer. I thought it was more of the same, but I will be reviewing the movie. That's right, KC. We got another flood watch here in New York. As I said at the top of the stream, protect the AMC Lincoln Square. Ben, you think it's going to be Superman and Supergirl versus Brainiac? I'll take it. Let's see here. Brainiac? I think James Gunn wrote a very good villain in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so I think he could do a good Brainiac. Wanda's attorney says, do you think they will recast Doom after Secret Wars? They can't keep having Doom. I mean, his story should be done after Secret Wars, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone's going to want other Doom. Josh, I've drawn the line in the sand for Superman's box office. It must pass Man of Steel. And I don't know if it's going to be able to do it. 300 domestic is pretty nice, though. Morph says, was Feige foolish to compete with Superman, or was he doing good business? I think he underestimated James Gunn and his success that he would have with DC. I mean, I personally feel Fantastic Four has a lot of problems as a movie. I'm not sure why people liked it so much out of the gate. And I'm wondering if that will hold as time passes. Plum Sparkle, Disney will never sell Marvel. Never. Hypertop, I will definitely review the Frankenstein movie. I think it looks so good. I love his red leather gloves. Let's see here. I didn't see any Spidey pics just yet. Are they already up? Was it like in Spider-Man, or is it just walking around? Let's see here. Adam Sphere, I don't think that Tom Holland's going to be James Bond, and he certainly shouldn't after the internet entirely rejected it. Senior Lullaby has a date this weekend. What movie should you take her to? Superman. Lois and Clark have such a beautiful romantic relationship. You know what I would do, Senior Lullaby? I would ask her what movie she would like to see. I think we'll get a lot of points for that and see if she has something that she's interested in. Becky says, unfortunately, I missed Fantastic Four opening night as the taxi. That's what happened to me. And I think you know that, Becky. Let's see here. Dancing Doug 60 says, Grace, is 3D still a thing besides Avatar? They're trying to make it a thing. You know, a lot of movies these days come out in 3D. And I used to be into 3D, but I kind of, like, these days, I don't want to put the glasses on for the most part. But I gotta say, I had to see How to Train Your Dragon in 3D because that was the evening IMAX showing. And I thought the 3D actually was excellent. So they're still pushing it. FTV says it's not world's finest. James Gunn says it's not world's finest. Well, I can only hope that he's once again misleading people. Let's see here. Knack says the Batman villain gets awards as well. That's true. That's a good point for Jeremy Strong. He might find himself winning an Oscar as Mr. Freeze. Let's see here. DeGaitai says, what is the best place to watch a film's box office performance? There are several box office websites that you can keep an eye on, for the numbers. Dark Vader says, do you think that the good results of Jurassic World without IMAX and the soft results of Superman and F1 with IMAX diminish its importance? No, IMAX is the only thing holding a lot of these movies up. I think, IMAX is really important. I will never get a Labubu, Grumpy. I don't like them. Casey says the Fantastic Four has a 60% drop. Would that impact Doomsday? I think it would be a bad sign. I think they'd be really sweating. Oliver says, are you excited for live action Teen Titans? No, don't make that. There's been too much Teen Titans. And I just saw, Tammy, that Jaws is going to IMAX for the 50th anniversary, but sadly, I just watched it again a couple of weeks ago. So, darn it. And it was great. Happy birthday, Tame the Three Bears. Let's see here. And John Hill says, Sydney Sweeney is Power Girl. I don't know I don't think that James Gunn, he's controversial enough on his own. I don't know if he needs to take on someone else's controversy. Oh, hey, Brent, you have a birthday wish as well? And let's see, Garnet Fire says, it's been a while since I've added to it, so here's an addition to the Chicken Nuggie Fund. Thank you. I love chicken nuggies. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. And then River says, I know you've mentioned this in the past, but do you think that the real reason movie theaters what do you think is the real reason they won't build more IMAX premium screens? Well, they just announced AMC that they're building more Dolbys. I think it's expensive and it takes time. But I think they're starting to see that they have no choice in the matter. And as I recently told you, they're trying to develop their own super big screen to compete with IMAX because IMAX must take a decent amount of the profits. Kevin says, yay to 3 years. I like that badge. But also, Grace, will Marvel ever go back and do Wanda right? The more time that passes, the less likely that it seems that will be the case. All right, everybody, I must go. Thank you for a lovely live stream as usual, and I will have more content tomorrow, including my Naked Gun review. Have a great day, everybody, and if you're in the New York City area, watch out for this rain. Okay, everybody, bye-bye. Bye-bye.